Bonsoir, messieurs et madame. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would first like to acknowledge that we are in the Robinson Superior Treaty and that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. On behalf of the Northern Policy Institute Board of Directors, I welcome you to our 5th anniversary fundraising gala. Some of you may be asking, what is Northern Policy Institute? You can look up on our website for more detailed information. I'm not going to speak all night, but in essence it is as follows. Northern Policy Institute is a non-partisan, not-for-profit institution providing fair, balanced, and objective assessment of policy issues in a pan-Northern context. We seek to deepen the understanding about the unique challenges of Northern Ontario while embracing and utilizing the unique opportunities that also come with our region. And to clarify things, we deal with various policy issues, not just economic policy, which may be a confusion for some. I'm not going to speak very long, but I'd like to mention that we have Northern Policy is governed by a 15-person board from throughout Northern Ontario, and at least for the time being, for someone who lives in the Ottawa region, but who lived in Northern Ontario for 15 years. In addition, we have many other people involved in our operations, serving as volunteers on other bodies. Tonight, here to celebrate the 5th anniversary gala, we have a number of directors. Emilio Regato is here. Can you raise your hand? I'm sure everybody knows you. Pierre Bélanger, Dr. Heather Munchison, somewhere out there. Jean-Pierre Chabot. I suppose I forgot to present myself, eh? I'm Harley d'Entremont, a member of the board and chair of the board for the time being. We have some former directors here. Jerry Munt, from, I believe, is over there. And I noticed looking out, that we actually have some, I wouldn't say old directors, but some previous directors. See, some are getting old, yeah. I'm one of only two who go back to the creation of NPI as director, but we have Madge Richardson, who's over here, Doug Murray, and Florence McLean is sitting next to me, but I don't see her yet. So this is some of the people who were involved in setting up NPI. NPI was founded 5 years ago with significant support from the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation. And Charles will explain more in detail how we got to where we are, but where I got in the picture, it was shortly after a report by the Lakehead and Laurentian University presidents, which recommended the creation of an institute. And while we're doing our 5th anniversary gala, I'd like to recognize that both Lakehead and Laurentian provided significant logistical support to launch the institute. And for that, we are very grateful. And we're talking the 5th anniversary. We had a 5-year grant from NOFHC. I have a hard time saying that, but anyhow. But recently, we've been renewed for another 5 years. We have in that time, and more now that we've established ourselves, been partnering with many other organizations, First Nations communities, corporations, foundations, to advance research and policy issues affecting Northern Ontario. Obviously, as I mentioned directors early on, but clearly having a bunch of directors doesn't necessarily make success of an organization. So we have, NPI has always had from day one, a dedicated staff, wonderful staff who organize everything and do a lot of work. And if you check out our website, I'm always amazed at the amount of reports, blogs, comments, data sources that we have. I mean, it is amazing what we've done, I think, in 5 years, and that's thanks to the dedicated staff that we have. Under the leadership of Charles Cirtwill, our president and CEO, who will now provide you with more information regarding NPI, maybe even accurate information. I may have missed a lot of things here. Enjoy the gala, ladies and gentlemen. Merci beaucoup.
you always hate to be the person standing between people and their meals. This is working okay, right? Or do I need to get closer to the thing like this? Right? Down here? Okay. By the way, there's Florence. Hi, Florence. So, this is going to be awkward as I have to lean over top of this microphone, so I apologize if it looks a little kind of untoward out there in the audience. But in any event, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Charles Cirtwill, the President and CEO of Northern Policy Institute. Thank you all for joining us here to celebrate the first 5 years of NPI. The fact that NPI is well into our 6th year and still going strong is a testament to the commitment of many of you here in this room, our volunteers, partners, donors, staff, and friends. There's very few people in this room who I would have been able to recognize 5 years ago, and there's very few people in this room who 5 years hence I don't know personally and haven't had at least 1 or 2 conversations with, and for that I'm eternally grateful. I suppose you can say that NPI is a child of what might be called a polyamorous relationship. We have hundreds of mothers and fathers, and over the last 5 years, in every corner of Northern Ontario, I think I've met them all. A few of our parents, of course, warrant a little bit more special mention due to either the longevity or the level of their commitment to seeing the institution come into being and to thrive. And so I'm going to highlight a few of them. Let me start here in the Northwest with one in particular, and I'll start at the beginning. And I actually debated starting my speech something along the lines of this. In the beginning, there was George. And then there was the NPI binder. So for those of you who know Dr. George C. Macy, you would understand the binder joke. But George, who unfortunately can't be here with us this evening, certainly warrants a mention in any history of NPI. Whether you start in 2013, 2011, 2007, or 20 years before that. And for those of you who spent most of your time networking out here in this room, I would encourage you to take a few seconds while perhaps you run to the facilities to wander into the lounge next door, because on the wall is a banner history of NPI that starts in 2007 and carries forward. And it has a few of the more interesting steps along the way. But in any event, from concept to creation to construction, George himself has had a firm hand in this mix. We at NPI and the people of Northern Ontario owe him a great deal of gratitude, both for NPI and for the myriad other projects to which he has contributed over the years. But to put a point on it, George has had a lot of help. Many of which is many of the people who have helped him are at these tables. As I said, there are simply too many to mention in the minutes that I have available. And for those that I leave out over the next 10 minutes, please, I want to offer our sincere and profound collective gratitude and my abject apologies. Those of you who feel particularly left out, please let me know, and I'll make sure that your face goes on the website tomorrow with a thank you. So that's my promise to you. Just a couple of highlights, and most of these you'd find on the banner next door. One is our platinum sponsors here this evening, the North Superior Workforce Planning Board, as they are now known. They had a different name back then. Commissioned a paper in 2007 making the case for an independent research institute. The author of that paper also is here, Dr. Livio Di Matteo from Lakehead University, and I want to offer our thanks both to Dr. Di Matteo and the folks at the Planning Board for clearing the lot upon which the NPI house got to be built. The foundation was then laid, as Harley mentioned, through the hard work of Brian Stevenson at Lakehead University and Dominic Giroux at Laurentian. They are the ones that took the ideas laid down by folks like Livio and George and others, talked it over with the people across the north, and began the process of turning concept into reality. Of course, they say behind every successful president, there's the assistant that actually does the work. And in this case, that would be Barb Eccles at Lakehead University and Anne-Marie Moini at Laurentian. And I'm glad to say that Barb was able to join us this evening. So on behalf of NPI's board, directors, staff, and all of our various partners, I want to reiterate Harley's thanks both to Brian and to Barb and to Lakehead University for the support that they offered, the two of them, in helping us get this up and running. So thank you very much. Of course, now we've got a cleared lot and a foundation built, and it's time to put up the walls, put in the windows and doors, and make the thing roof tight. And that came down to our 10 original directors, Harley of which mentioned he's one of the sole survivors. Harley and, who's the other? Pierre, I guess. No, Pierre's year 2. George. So Harley and George are our last 2, and we now have 3 others here in the front. It's those 10 people, I think, that NPI owes its early success. And before I thank them, I want to tell you why. And I'm a maritimer, so I like to tell stories. So 2 weeks ago at our second State of the North event, I was standing in the doorway welcoming people as I was this evening, and an early critic of MPI, a very vocal early critic of MPI, and there were a few, came up to me, took me aside, and he said, "Listen, I wanted to tell you in person that I was wrong." He said, we all thought MPI was going to be just another government agency, a mouthpiece for Queen's Park, a Sudbury and Thunder Bay-centered group of conehead academics, or a waste of money better spent on other things. Now, I'll tell you, this fellow is the mayor of a medium-sized northeastern community, and he's never been at a loss for words. But the point is that he did go on, and he said it turned out into none of those things. In 5 short years, he sees the difference. He sees the difference that NPI has made, both in the way that Northerners talk about themselves, and more importantly, in the way that leaders from Toronto and Ottawa talk to and about us. And I think that's a great testament. To be honest, though, we could have been any of those things. We could have been, as some wanted us to be, the research branch for the Northern Lobby, collecting selected evidence to make the case for the things that we want, as opposed to taking an honest look and making the case for the things that we really need. We could have been, as some people did in fact want us to be, an integral part of the provincial policy-making process, taking decisions and directions from Queen's Park, collecting and presenting the evidence to convince Northerners that what Queen's Park wanted were good things that we should want too. We could have been, as some people wanted us to be, a conduit for pet policy projects for our directors and our friends, making allocations on the basis of fair shares, hot topics, and easy wins, as opposed to looking at the issues that mattered most to Northern Ontarians. Could have been all those things. But it's thanks to those first 10 directors that we are none of those things, that we are instead an independent, evidence-based public policy think tank. They were serious about independence, and in 2013, those 10 people helped build walls between themselves and the policy advice that the MPI gives. They built walls between the policy advice that the MPI gives and the staff. They were serious about inclusion, and in 2014, they changed the structure of MPI. They changed it to make sure that there were 3 guaranteed spots on the board for the Northwest, there were 3 guaranteed spots for the Northeast, and there were 3 guaranteed spots for Indigenous peoples living in Northern Ontario. They were serious about self-sufficiency, too. And in 2015, they set us on a path of financial self-sufficiency, setting the goal of having no single donation representing more than 25% of our overall budget. They set a target of 75% in year 5. I'm glad to say that we managed to achieve 70%. They set a goal for no more than 50% in any single donation by year 10, and we're already on track to hit 45%. And they set a goal that by year 15, we'll have no single donation greater than 25% of our overall budget, and I have no doubt at all that we'll meet that target too. Diversity of funding, while meaning more work to raise the money, and let me tell you, it is work, means more freedom for our authors to follow the evidence and talk directly about the needs, not the wants of Northern Ontario, regardless of what may be politically popular or generally acceptable at the given time. And their vision, I have to say, is working. Now, it's tough for me in the time that I have allocated to talk about all the success that MPI's had over the last 5 years, but I would encourage you to do is over the course of your dinner up there on that screen, there's going to be a series of photos, images, etc. about our first 5 years. And in particular, what I'd suggest you do is when the slides come up about partners, take a careful look at them as they go from 2014 through to 2018, because what they show is not just the growth of MPI, but our breadth and our reach throughout the North. In terms of the nature, the types, the size, and the scope of the partners that we have and the work that we do. I say that the vision is working, and I'll just highlight a few things. In our last 5 years, over 50 summer placements have come through our doors, gained important Northern experience, and are now serving North interests at home and across the country, including, by the way, in the Prime Minister's office. Hi, Matt. Over 15 full-year postgraduate interns have found real work in the North after graduation. Some are still with MPI, others are now working in policy shops at Queen's Park, others still are in communities across the North. But the point is that they have Northern experience, they know what it's like to live in Northern Ontario, whether they're from here originally or not, and they know the issues because they've talked to you about the issues. They've talked directly to you and the folks that work with you and the folks that live beside you, and they take those messages where else they go. NPI has made a measurable difference on federal, provincial, and local policies across a wide spectrum of issues, from Indigenous control of Indigenous education, which was the theme of our first paper over there on the wall, to natural resources, to taxation, to transportation, to local collaboration and decision-making, which of course is our theme tonight, and of course to our latest hot topics, which is Indigenous inclusion, and of course the immigration file and the demographic shift. And since I'm a little lighthearted and tend to tell jokes, I'll make this point as well. We've done our fair share to contribute to combating the demographic shift. In 5 years, there have been 4 NPI babies. You're welcome. In addition to that, half of our staff are either newcomers to Northern Ontario or boomerangs. They have come home to find work that we give them that they couldn't find before we got here. And just to make a point on it, all of them but me are under 40. And they tell me every single day. But that was the vision of the first board of directors, a vibrant, growing, connected Northern Ontario with NPI as the catalyst. And we are making it reality. The staff, directors, volunteers, partners, donors, and friends, both past and present. And I would invite you all to join me in a round of applause for those 10 people, for all the people that have come after them, to the people with the vision and the fortitude to build something truly unique in Northern Ontario. So thank you for your time. Thank you for celebrating them. And congratulations to you all. So now I'm going to get out of here and let you enjoy your meal. And after the meal, we'll have a fascinating talk from Matthew Kuncombe, who I've now had a chance to hear him tell the story twice, once at a restaurant, once at a meeting this morning. So I'm looking forward to picking up even more details as we go through it again. So we'll see you in about 90 minutes or so. Eat slow. Matthew's in no rush to talk, I guarantee it.